not going to ask you to turn on your webcams because I don't want to record you. I don't think that's okay. Okay, so if anybody else comes into the session, please remember that if you do not write hi in your chat box, I do not take attendance. For example, Juanse, you need to write hi. I don't know if you're active yet, but you need to write hi. If anybody sees Juanse, please write hi in the chat box, okay? Okay, cool. So I'm guessing Okay, so we're gonna start our session. First off, hopefully you guys can see my screen and my webcam. Somebody please write yes if you can see the screen and the webcam. Okay, thank you guys. So first of all, our announcements. We need to maintain all communication through Schoology. I'm getting a lot of emails, people. I can't be efficient in emails. There's no way. I get so many from so many people that I can't be efficient in an email. I need you guys to send me. If it's a private thing, just send me a Schoology message. It's the same thing as an email. So just go into your messages, send it just to me, and I will reply you through there. If it is a question about content or if it's a question about, Sophie, this is not working for me, please help me. Like you can't open a page or you can't open something, just write it in the comment discussion board, because if somebody has the same question, I can kill 2 questions with 1 arrow or with 1 answer, right? Somebody else might have the same question, they can go and look for it in the discussion board and they'll find their answer. So please, let's do it that way. I do not want any more emails. I'm sending an automatic template to every student email to not send me an email and go through Schoology. So please go through Schoology. Last thing, you need to turn in your assignments. There's some people that are not turning their assignments, and they're very, very easy things. Like write 1 comment in the discussion board. Okay, doing that gives you a completion grade of 10. So some people are getting some zeros, and those zeros are being reflected. I am consistently writing down your grades in school, in PowerSchool. All your grades up until this point are in PowerSchool. So if you are not completing some of those assignments, those are, yes, Dani, those are partial 5. Partial 4 has closed. So all of this is a new partial. So we will start the partial strong, and some people are not partial strong. So please complete the assignments. If you do not complete the assignments by the due date is always 3:45 p.m. from that day. 1 day extra, 20% off. 2 days extra, 20% off. More than 2 days, it stays a 0. So please be careful. Just keep track of what you need to do. Even if you're not sending me the best things, you're at least not getting a 0. Okay? Please check PowerSchool as much as you can to see if you're forgetting things. Yes, Agustin, there was a comment, there was an assignment of a discussion board for the respiratory system. You need to ask a question and answer one of the questions. And that was a completion grade. I mean, it was completion if you did it pretty well. If it was very, very bad, I took points off, but it was basically everybody got a 10 in that. Okay? Okay, so the respiratory system. So I'm going to start off with just saying what our agenda is. We're going to start off with a 5-minute warm-up. Then I'm going to go into a lecture. It's going to be, it says 20 minutes. It's not going to be 20 minutes. It'll be like a 15-minute lecture. Okay, so during that time, if you have any questions during my lecture that I'm not explaining well, please write them in the chat box and I will stop and answer. Answer questions set in Schoology. So after I'm done with my lecture, you're going to answer 2 questions. There are only 2. In Schoology, it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes. And then we're going to come back, everybody, 15 minutes before class ends to talk about next week's assignment and wrap everything up, okay? So your warm-up, you're going to simply answer it. You do not need to answer it in your notebook. You need to answer it in the chat box. So that's also a way that I can see that you guys are participating and you guys are here. Okay, so what is your warm-up? You need to answer 2 questions. You can start with question number 1. What controls your breathing rate? So if you do not know this, just try to think about it logically. Okay, what controls your breathing rate? And question number 2 is, does breathing take energy? And explain if you know what energy it takes. Okay, so please answer question number 1 and question number 2. I'll give you 5 minutes. Vasily, bang! If you hear that, that's my cat. Hopefully he comes over here and I can introduce you to him. Okay, good. Nico, very good. Very, very good. Yes, everybody. Okay. Ariana, sweetie, when you come in here late, you also need to write hi on the chat box so that I know at what time you got here. Okay? Or else I do not have you as present. Very close, Agustin. It's not kinetic energy. It's something a little bit different. There, Joaquin just answered that for you. There you go. Very good, Alina, but it has a name, that potential energy. There, Ariana, elastic potential energy. Okay, awesome. So I think you guys really got this very well, so I'm very glad. We're going to continue, okay? Okay, I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds more for the last people that are typing. Okay, so I'm going to go pretty fast into this lecture. This lecture is about inhalation, exhalation, a gas exchange in the alveoli, and something that we have kind of covered a little bit, but not everybody has seen, which is breathing rate. Okay, so okay, so really fast, let's do a quick review. This is nose, this is mouth, right? Nasal cavity, oral cavity. Right over here, you've got your throat. What is another name for your throat? Somebody, write it down. Pharynx, Dani. Awesome, awesome. Okay, now you have this little flappy thing over here that closes every time you eat. What is that called? Glottis. No, no, Jose Antonio. Close. Let's see if somebody else can get it. What thing? Juan Martin, right over here, this flap thing. Yes, Martina, this flappy thing here. And it closes. It closes every time that you're eating something. Epiglottis, yes. Yes, Jose Antonio, epiglottis. Okay, now right below this flappy epiglottis thing, you have your voice box. What is that also called? Larynx, yes. Now, Juan Martin, what is this thing called that has a whole bunch of cartilage rings? Trachea, yes. Okay, these two branches are your bronchi. Okay, after that, you branch out into even smaller tree-like branches bronches. What are these called? Not yet, no. Not yet alveoli. Bronchioles, yes. And now, at the very end, you have air sacs. Okay, these tiny little air sacs. What are they called? Alveoli. How many do you have? Do you guys know? 500 million. Very, very good. Okay, you guys are awesome. So let's just discuss breathing really fast, okay? So you saw a very good video about this, and I just want to make sure that you kind of understand how this mechanism works. Because a lot of people think that when you're breathing, you're kind of forcing, by force, air in. Like inhaling it is forcing the air in, when it's actually the air that wants to go into your lungs. And the reason is because there's a change in pressure. So you're going to have two different muscles that help you do this change in pressure. You have this muscle right underneath your lungs called the diaphragm, and then you have these muscles that are right in between your ribs. What are those muscles called? Intercostal muscles. Think of costado as ribs, inter as between. So intercostal muscles. Good. Now, when you're breathing in, when you're inhaling, these intercostal muscles are going to contract. When they contract, they pull the ribs outward. Okay? Now, the diaphragm is also going to contract, and when the diaphragm contracts, it pulls downwards. All of those movements are going to increase the space in the lungs. And when you increase the space in the lungs, what happens to the pressure of air in the lungs? It decreases, because now you have much more space for the same amount of molecules. So molecules, air molecules, what do they want to move from? How do they move? From high pressure to low pressure. So since you decreased the pressure inside the lungs, on the outside, you have higher pressure, higher air pressure. So air outside is going to want to move right into the lungs. And that's how you're inhaling, because the air that's outside contains oxygen. So that moves naturally into your lungs, and now your lungs contain a new supply of oxygen. So that's inhaling. Exhaling, and when you're doing all of these contractions, you're using chemical energy. You're using ATP. Okay, so if you want to think about this little flap of diaphragm as a rubber band, that's a super good metaphor, because this is the original, the natural state of this diaphragm. It's actually a super curved C. Okay, so when you're pulling downwards, you're actually using a lot of force to pull this downwards. Once you want to get it right back to where it is, all you need to do is let go. Okay, so when you let go, all of the potential energy that you have based on the fact that you're pulling, that you're using elasticity, is used to restore the natural shape of this diaphragm. So that's called elastic potential energy. And the natural shape of the diaphragm is actually making the space in the lungs much smaller. So it decreases the volumes in the lungs. The intercostal muscles also relax, and that makes the ribs pull inward, also decreasing the volume in the lungs. When you decrease the volume in the lungs, what happens with the pressure of air? Exactly, it increases. Yes, the pressure increases. Now, since air wants to move from higher pressure to areas of lower pressure, now your lungs has air with higher pressure. So the air is going to naturally want to exit your respiratory system and go outwards. Okay, so this is just the natural way of exhaling. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, please write your questions in the chat box. Okay, so let's think about gas exchange. So once you get that air in to your lungs, what happens is that since the volume has increased, these little air sacs have also expanded. They're higher in volume, and they contain all of this air that's filled with oxygen. So what's going to happen is that these capillaries, these blood vessels, are going to take blood that has very little oxygen towards the alveoli. Okay, they're going to wrap every single one of these air sacs. Now, what if they have very little oxygen? What do they have a lot of? Carbon dioxide, yes. So since molecules also want to move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration, this is called diffusion. CO2 is going to want to move from a place in the capillaries where it has a lot of concentration, it's very concentrated, to the alveoli where there's not a lot of CO2. Okay, so there's going to be this transfer of CO2 from capillaries into the alveoli. Now, what does your respiratory system need to do to get rid of that CO2? We got this, people. No, we need to get rid of the CO2. Exhale. We're going to exhale it out. Okay, so now we get rid of the CO2. Now we're in an inhale. We're putting all of the air molecules inside our alveoli. And now we have capillaries that don't contain CO2 anymore, but they don't contain oxygen either. So the oxygen in the alveoli that is very concentrated is going to want to diffuse or move towards a low concentrated area, which is the capillaries. So now the oxygen goes from the alveoli to the capillaries, oxygenating that blood. Where is the capillaries going to take that blood now? Okay, it can take it to the heart, and then it can take it to the heart and the whole body. Very good, guys. Okay. Okay, so this is everything that we've known so far. Now we're going to learn about one thing that we haven't known. And I think Nico knows a little bit about this because he got the question, the first warm-up question correct. And it says, what regulates respiration rate? So there's a rate that you can breathe. When you're doing exercise, you definitely breathe faster than when you're just sitting in your couch. And the reason is because you need to be able to transport these gases faster, right? And you need to be able to either get oxygen into your respiratory system faster or get CO2 out of your respiratory system faster because your cells and your muscles and things that are using this energy, using this ATP and producing this ATP because you're doing exercise, need these gases. So a lot of people think that when you're doing exercise, because you need to produce ATP, because you're doing energy, you're using energy, you need a lot of oxygen, and that's what regulates how fast you breathe, because you need to breathe faster to get more oxygen inside your body. And that has a lot of sense. It's logical, okay? But it's not actually oxygen what's increasing your breathing rate. It's not actually oxygen what's making you breathe faster. It's actually CO2. Okay, why? When you're doing exercise, this diagram points it out pretty nicely. When you're doing exercise, your body and the cells in your body are using a lot of oxygen to produce ATP. And when they produce ATP, they also produce the waste product of CO2. Okay, the problem with CO2 is that this CO2 will go into your blood, okay, and your blood is mainly water. So the CO2 is going to dissolve in the water of the blood. And when it dissolves in the water in the blood, it's going to create a compound called carbonic acid. Keyword acid. Okay? Now, if you guys remember in your chemistry class, acid and bases are based on a pH scale. So that's a scale from 0 to 14. If you're in the 7 of the pH scale, you're neutral. Anything below 7 is acidic, and anything above 7 is basic. Our blood normally has to be 7.4, so it's a little bit basic. But what happens when you do exercise is that you're forming all of this carbonic acid because you're producing a whole bunch of CO2. You're not producing the normal amount, you're producing much more. So this carbonic acid starts making your blood super acidic, right? And that is extremely dangerous. Changing a little bit of the acidity in your blood can cause a lot of things to malfunction. So this acidity, this change in acidity, once it starts happening because you're doing exercise, that sends a signal to your brain. And what does your brain do? It automatically responds to this decrease in pH or to this acidity by telling your lungs to breathe faster. Why would you want to breathe faster in this case? Think about it and try to answer this. No, we don't want to sweat. No. We're breathing faster. Why would we want to breathe faster? We want to release this excess CO2. We have too much of it. We don't want our blood to become acidic. So in order to release this excess CO2, because we're producing so much of it, we also need to start exhaling faster. Okay, so CO2 is what controls the rate at which we breathe. So this is simply going to give us a little summary. Breathing rate is not controlled by oxygen, it's controlled by amount of CO2. This is because CO2 is produced by cellular respiration, and when it is produced, it dissolves into the plasma of the blood, the H2O of the blood, and it creates carbonic acid. This is the molecular formula of carbonic acid. The increase in carbonic acid will cause the pH blood to drop or become acidic, which signals the part of your brain. The part of your brain specifically for this signal is called the medulla oblongata. It's a gland in your brain that receives the signal. And what does the medulla oblongata do? It tells your lungs to increase your breathing rate. When you increase your breathing rate, you can exhale all of the excess CO2 out. What happens if the CO2 has already become carbonic acid? Not a problem. It's just going to revert the process. It'll break down into CO2 and H2O. The CO2 gets exhaled out, and the H2O simply becomes part of the plasma once more. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Please write any questions down that do not make sense. For the next 5 minutes, you guys are going to go into Schoology, and you're going to check out the assignment that says question set, respiratory system question set to answer after live session. It's only 2 questions. If you find that it's more than 2 questions, please just let me know and I need to fix that, okay? But it's only 2 questions, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Go ahead and start doing that, and in 5 minutes, I'll ask you to submit it. You guys tell which makes you section. When you inhale, they contract. The muscles contract. And contracting means pulling downwards for the diaphragm or pulling outwards for the intercostal muscles. Yes, you do need to submit the assignment once you're done, and I'm going to be giving you 5 minutes, okay? Definitely click submit. That is like your closure. And you come back once you click submit. Juan Martin, you need to go into Schoology, go into question set to answer after live session in your folder of class number 3, and start those questions, okay? You need to submit them in 5 minutes.
Vasily. Ay, pero es que está abierta la puerta.
Martin, go ahead and open that assignment. You don't have that much time. I can see when you open and when you do not open. Okay? Okay, thank you. Yes, it is, Juan Martin.
Voy a traer una almohada porque ya me quitaron mis almohadas.
Once you're done, please write done in the chat box. Make sure you click submit. Okay? Okay, awesome. Okay, let's give everybody else a couple more minutes. Okay, people, so if you are close, please click submit. Okay, we need to move on. Now, first of all, I'm gonna talk to you about something super delicate. Okay, you guys are doing a good job. First of all, I want to tell you that you're doing a good job. I'm checking out your notes. You're working at it. Okay, most of you guys are doing it on time. There is absolutely no need for plagiarism. No need. Okay. As long as you just try, you're gonna get a good grade. I'm not being harsh on grading. As long as you're trying, that's all I want to see you do. I want you to try. Okay. Now, a lot of people have received maybe some comments of this is a answer I'm seeing a lot of. Okay. Those sort of things we can tell as teachers. We can tell. Okay. Now, so far, that hasn't necessarily resulted in extreme zeros or things like that, okay? But it's happening a lot, and I want to stop it from the root right now because it is not worth it, okay? So please, people, bear in mind, you do not want to lose your integrity for something as dumb as simply, pásame la pregunta 5 de este puzzle. It's not worth it. It really isn't worth it. Your integrity is everything you have, okay? So, that's something I want to put out there. It's super important. Please, it's frustrating every time I see something that I know has been copied over and over again, and all it wants me to do, all it makes me want to do is create harder assessments. Okay, so let's just try to stay as honest as we can. Okay, so besides that, I want to show you what you're going to be doing for the next week. Okay, so it's going to be an assignment that's going to take you 2 days. So it's going to take you class number 1 and class number 2. So for you guys, that would be, if I'm mistaken, please let me know. That would be Monday and Tuesday, I think. Okay, so for an entire hour and a half, 1 hour, 30 minutes, because that's 2 classes, that's what the assignment that you're going to be doing. We're done with the respiratory system. This was it. This is the closure. And because we're done with this mini subunit that we've kind of had a lot of time in, we're going to be doing a summative. Your summative is going to be a project, okay? All of these things are going in your grades, people, and this is this sort of quarantine is not going to stop anytime soon, okay? So we should know this. These are our grades. It's not like they're going to be substituted by anything else. These are our grades, okay? So this is going to be your first summative. So what is the project about? I'm going to share my screen right now so that maybe I can show you the share your screen. Application windows, and I want to see this. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. It says respiratory system 1-pager. Okay, so what you guys are going to be doing is you're going to be creating a 1-pager. It can also be, if you want to think about it as an infographic, that's fine. And you're going to be doing it in 1 hour, 30 minutes, okay? You can use printer paper if you've got that at home. You can use construction paper, cartulina, if you've got that at home, and any materials you have at home. I understand that some people may not have materials at home, and for that reason, I am allowing you guys to do it electronically or digitally. Remember that every time you do things digitally, I expect them to be worked out. I don't expect them to just be, here is an image from Google, bam, 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 a bunch of images from Google, and nothing made from yourself. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you would do it digitally in a second. What are the topics you can choose from? You can choose to do your 1-pager or infographic about the respiratory system anatomy and function. So this is for people that really like to draw or really like to do things that are like very artistic, okay? So you can just make a diagram of the respiratory system, and each one of the organs, you can explain how they function so that you can breathe, okay? So that is one. That's 1-pager. The other one, you can actually talk about the pandemic right now, COVID-19. This is the virus's name, SARS-CoV-2, and how it affects your body. So you can do a little bit of researching as to what part of the lungs it affects, or does it also affect your upper respiratory system? So you do a little bit of that, of how it affects your body. And if you want to also include how it affects us socially, like what it's doing to us right now, You can also include that. That would be super cool. Okay. You can also talk about any other sort of respiratory system disease. You can talk about asthma, emphysema, pneumonia. You can also talk about things that cause us disease, like smoking or contamination and how they cause us disease. And all of this, you're going to be doing it graphically. Okay, so with diagrams, with drawings, with things like that. Okay, and you can also talk about altitude. Since we're living in Quito, you can talk about how altitude affects us breathing and how what things need to change in order for us to breathe a little bit better and things like that. So those are your 4 options. How will you be graded? If all of the information is presented and it's relevant and meaningful, you've got 30 points. If the information is accurate, 30 points. There's also aesthetics, right? It is an infographic or a 1-pager. So what do I want you to do? If it is a physical infographic or 1-pager, just try to make it as nice as you can, okay? Drawings, diagrams, things like that. If it's electronic, I don't want you to go and copy paste a bunch of pictures from the internet. What I want you to do is I want you to use clip arts. If you do not know what a clip art is, it's also from the internet, it's also Google. What you do is, for example, you want to do the coronavirus 1-pager. So you go into Google and you say virus clip art. When you see a virus in clip art form, it's a diagram of the virus. It's an image of the virus, but it doesn't have a background. So that means that you could use that image and you could put it directly into another image on top of another image, and it's not going to have a background. So it's going to merge. So in that way, you're going to be much more creative. So you can make an image of, for example, you can look for lungs clip art, okay? And then put on top of the lungs a virus clip art, and it actually looks like a diagram created by you. It's no longer just a picture. It's going to be on Schoology super soon, Joaquin. So I'm going to put it to tomorrow probably. I didn't want to put it before that because it's not supposed to be things that you're doing out of time. It's supposed to take you an hour 30 minutes. That's why. Okay, but I will put it on Schoology. Okay, so that's how I want you to do it. If it's electronic, you're also going to be graded for if the information is presented in graphs, images, cycles, visual aids, and things like that. I do want writing. It's not that everything has to be an image, but I don't want super text-heavy paragraph writing. You've done this before with me, so you kind of know what it is. Yeah, I also gave you examples of physical 1-pagers, and I'm trying to do an example of an electronic 1-pager. Hopefully I can do that soon. Okay, so do you guys have any questions about that? Any questions? When is it due? Very good, Ariana. It'll be due at the ending of your second class. That was really weird. Your second class is Tuesday, right? It's going to be at 3:45 p.m. on Tuesday. Yes? Okay. Okay, so if there's no questions, the people that I want to stay with, everybody else can leave except for the people that I want to stay with. I want to stay with Antonio, Nicolas, and Juanse. Okay, everybody else, please go. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Make sure you submitted the assignment in Schoology. Okay, everybody else, please go. I just need to have a little conversation, okay? So log out. Bye, Joaquin. Bye, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Tadeo, I don't know at what time, sweetie, you got online, but I have you as absent. So Tadeo, also stay. Okay, guys. So we're just right now with Antonio, Juanse, and Nico. I think that they will eventually left, but I actually needed to talk to him as well. People, I don't know. Hi. Tadeo,